right. Good day, everybody. This is the Loyal Sons podcast. It's your boy, George Brisbane. I got my boys, Aaron Duncan, Stephen Frederick, and my boy, Denzel Johnson. Say what's up, everybody.
What's going on?
What's going on?
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Yeah, so we're going to get this thing started. We're going to first start out with the main thing that, everybody's talking about right now is Last Dance. We had episodes, I believe it was 5 and 6 this past Sunday, telling the story a little bit more. They dove into, Kobe, his relationship with Kobe Bean Bryant, his last All-Star game as a Bull, and just, continuing to tell the story. We saw a little bit more about Jerry Krause. Dude keeps coming. I want to talk about that a little bit more because, I want to, take some of the pressure off of Jerry. But Aaron, you kick in a little bit more, about 5 and 6. It was more than just the Kobe deal, but had a lot going on.
Man, we can start off about. Actually, we start with Kobe. How we feel about Jordan mentoring Kobe?
I think, that's huge because based off what we've seen so far of Mike and how he acted and treated, most players and, had mostly vengeance against anybody. He hated Clyde Drexler because one paper said that him and Clyde were in the same category. He went for Clyde's throat. And for him to actually mentor a young Kobe Bryant, 19 years old in the All-Star game.
Little Laker boy. That's what he called.
The little Laker boy. That little go ahead and try to start the game up. But, it was kind of cool, and you can kind of see, leading up to Kobe's untimely passing, the things Mike said about him at the memorial, how close that friendship was. And I think that All-Star game gave us insight, and it kind of painted the picture of, everybody trying to understand, I think we all know Mike's a crier, but, wow, we really didn't know, how close that relationship was. And, I think that game was the start of it. So it was very, very touching and very cool to see how that relationship started at that point.
I think for me, the statement, they're saying Kobe and Michael, if you play Michael one-on-one, you would beat him. And Kobe kind of shut it down and said, I don't have 5 rings without this guy right here. He definitely set the pedestal for the championship success. And it's something that obviously, we talk about often, Kobe kind of emulated. Kobe was the closest to have that kind of intensity and competitiveness that Michael Jordan had. So I found that very insightful, especially when we look to compare different players and different things like that.
Yeah. I agree with Denzel, that statement, Kobe made about the 5 rings. I just think that shows another side of the relationship that, quite frankly, I didn't really, know that they were actually that close. Just because, Jordan, his rap is that he don't really mentor a lot of people, and is close to a lot of even players or former players. So that was kind of good to see that. Unfortunately, with the of Kobe's, untimely of his passing or whatever. It's just sad that we didn't get to really see the relationship really bloom and get to see what could have been. But it was just cool to see a different side of Mike, and then just to see how he did kind of take Kobe under his wing when he don't get credit for really doing that for nobody. So just to see how special that relationship was with him and Kobe, that was pretty cool for me to see that.
I guess what's normal for me not give Mike the credit for this. I feel like Kobe took that. Jordan is somebody that Kobe definitely patterned his game after, and he probably came to the league hearing stories and saw for himself that Jordan really ain't gonna fool with anybody if you're not on his side or on his team. So I think he just took that. He bothered him until Jordan said, "All right, what you need to know, what you want to know. I'll show you what you want to know. I give it to you." And then I think the relationship just grew from there. But I think it started off with Kobe just not taking no for an answer and saying, "You're going to mentor me. You're going to let me know your secret. Or I'm going to come at you. Either way."
I mean, but MJ did kind of extend the olive branch out there. He said, I think Kobe made a remark about, he asked him a question about the fadeaway or jump shot, I think something like that, and then MJ told him, what it was basically. He said, if you need anything else, just contact me. So in a sense, I mean, he did. I guess Kobe did kind of reach out to him too, but MJ did extend that arm, for him to reach out to him as well. So you got to give him at least a little bit of credit for that.
I think part of Mike also saw a lot of himself in Kobe, because I think, like, to your credit, Steve, like when you said, like, Kobe asked him a question on the court and he answered it. And I think the fact that Kobe cerebrally understood, I think Kobe's probably talked to other players before, but they really didn't understand or comprehend what he was saying. And I think the fact that Kobe could, from a basketball IQ standpoint, ask the questions that maybe Mike never either got asked before or answered it, took his advice in a way that nobody had before. Like, okay, this dude's different. Like, this dude's about it. And like, I mean, you say it all the time. You see somebody in the street, hey man, holler at me, call me, we'll go do something sometime. You don't really mean it. But
don't mean it at all.
But when the person calls you and, it's like, all right. And then, I think even in the back of Mike's mind, at that point, he's on the tail end of his career, like this 19-year-old kid. And like you said, like, Kobe's gonna make it. He's gonna make it about him. He don't care. Like, he's just gonna do his thing. But Mike was the same way when he first got in the league. Like when Mike first got in the league, Mike did his thing. Mike was out here scoring 35 plus 37 points a game and stuff like that for a whole season.
While the whole team was drinking cases of beer and smoking cigarettes.
It was a different time, man.
But can we talk about that 98 All-Star games? 4 Los Angeles Lakers on the Western Conference All-Stars.
Only three of them should have been there.
Who should, like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Nick Van Exel probably.
No, I was gonna say this. Eddie Jones was the other one, right?
Eddie Jones was the other one.
I can't give that to Eddie. Nick was been there.
Man, Eddie was nice though.
Nick and Eddie was nice though. We can't.
Eddie was nice.
Eddie was okay, but I think there was a lot of other people that could have been there.
Eddie, I mean, I think they took Eddie there because, like, Eddie was the starter for that team.
Yeah.
Kobe got voted in, so I guess everybody else felt like, shit.
He gotta come. We
can't leave Eddie at home.
Right.
We can't leave Eddie at home, so Eddie, come on.
You got to think. You have to think of the time, though. Eddie was he was an all-star at that time.
Yeah, he was. Another podcast, and they had J.R. Ryder on there, and he was talking about this exact same thing about how he used to give Eddie buckets, and Eddie Jones made the All-Star game, and then I went back and looked. I was like, he did give him buckets, but I mean, you can take either one.
I mean, everybody get buckets, on them every once again.
It was a political move. It was one of those things where it was like, all right, the fans voted the kid in, and we can't not take the starter for that team. And at that point, the Lakers were the number 1 team in the Western Conference. So, what do you do at that point? We all know politics didn't just start happening. Now politics been going on for
politics as usual.
It just didn't work out for Isaiah Thomas in '92.
Let's not get into that yet. But moving forward, we should probably move into the marketing and branding of what is now Air Jordan. Who wants to start that off?
I think you can kick it back to the Olympics, man. Him having the idea to put the flag over Reebok. Like I said, man, Jordan is fresh. I can't take that from him, no matter who I feel like is the best basketball player ever. But to have the audacity to pull that move, man, you can't do nothing but be like, that's a genius. That's a marketing genius.
Oh, he's a marketing genius and a marketing guru. And then, to be honest, like, I don't think Reebok should be surprised. Like, they should have knew what they were getting themselves into when they knew, okay, we're going to get the pros to come over here, and we're asking Michael Jordan to come play.
We're going to get Jordan and Reebok one way or another.
like, you really thought you were going to get Jordan to Reeboks? No. Like, it just doesn't, like, I don't even know what they were thinking, but like that literally catapulted him to something that was already a thing. Like, and it's like shocks me. Like my dad even told me, like I've been walking around my house in J's, and he's even been like, "Yo, I had them,"
Right.
they first came out in the first go around and stuff like that. And
And
then,
that's what
like
I
I said,
think a lot of people don't understand. Like,
yeah,
especially today, with as popular as Jordans seem to be now, with the lines and everything. Because we even been on lines together, getting Jordans. But I don't believe they know that Jordans have always been hot ever since they first came out. From '86 with the ones to all the way coming through to now, and even the want to say probably the first time they collaborated with the Urban Culture, utilizing Spike and Spike's movies, She's Gotta Have It and Do the Right Thing. So with that being said, and you're hearing from a lot of artists and celebrities of the time, it was when they were kids, it was something you had to have. It validated your status. So I don't believe that's changed throughout the history.
no, it hasn't.
I think the popularity of the shoes is what keeps it going, man. These kids that are getting Jordans now, they've never seen him play live, like never seen him play live. They probably don't go back and watch clips. So it's just the popularity of the brand, and it just keeps on growing. And even with the young players that they signing with Jordan brand, even a few years ago that wasn't happening. Now you got like Luka and Zion signing to Jordan, which I knew they were gonna sign with somebody else. So I mean, his brand just continues to grow.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of agree with everybody. Basically, to me, he always had a good running, but I think the whole Olympics thing really, took him to the next level. Like that whole him hiding the Reebok symbol with the American flag, like y'all been saying, that was a genius move, pretty much. And then I mean, he still fulfilled his duties with Reebok and still remain loyal. So you can't really fault him at all for that. And then he didn't tarnish the brand or anything like that. And then I just think with Jordans, there's just a lot of nostalgia in the shoe period. So like George was saying earlier, his pops, had some Jordans that came out back then, and then now when they, retro and release them again, some of the pair you might have missed out on, or some of your favorite pair you had as a kid, you might want to grab them again when they come back out again. So it just keeps going. Like you think it will stop, but after this long, 30 plus years, he still continue to be, like one of the main stream, movers of sneaker culture. So it's crazy to see that's still going on to this day.
Well spoken, Mr. AKA Mr. Ones over here. That's
my favorite one.
So with that being said, what are your favorite Jordans?
Oh, I mean, well, mine is definitely the ones. The favorite one, I guess, of the ones are probably the black and reds. I just never really actually can get my hands on them. Those sell out so quick, but that's actually probably my favorite pair of, the ones. But those what I like. I just kind of like the style of them. They kind of basic, but I just like the style of them.
Okay, Aaron?
I say 1s, 11s, and 13s. Those are my favorite ones.
Okay. George?
8s, 11s, 1s, and 3s.
I do like.
So I'm gonna take y'all for a loop because everybody gives me a hard time. Even my girl gave me a hard time the other day. I'm gonna go with the 2s because that's the 87. That's the born year. Gotta represent that. I like the Taxi 12s and definitely the 8s as well. I always felt the 8s were real creative.
But the 8s were like, I think the 8s is like one of the most like undercover like best shoes he's had. Like it doesn't get like enough like pub. Like the 11s, of course, get the most attention, which rightfully so. The 11s are tough. Like, I'm not taking it away from the 11s.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them, but honestly, you had to add favorite. You had to throw it up there and mix it up a little bit.
The 1s, I mean, I like the 1s. Like, it doesn't shock me not one bit. Just so people know, like, we were talking about it during the show while it was being aired, talking about like his feet, saying his socks were covered in blood after playing in the ones.
His socks were covered in blood.
I'm not gonna lie.
For the record, they didn't show that. So we don't.
They didn't.
They didn't show it. They didn't show it. Yeah, they didn't show it. But
I believe it. I remember back in the day playing in them.
I've worn ones to club and been like, yo, I'm ready to go home. My feet were fine.
They definitely not a comfortable shoe.
Not
a bad shoe at all.
Right. And like he said, just looking at because the sneakers that he was wearing at the time were the 13s. He said, look how long it's taking for the sneakers to evolve, in the time. So you look back at those ones like
the ones are
original Nikes, because once upon a time Nike was the dominant factor in Jordan, and those original Jordans were basically like kind of like Air Force One built.
It basically
not the best comfort.
I didn't want to say that, but they do look like Air Force One.
Exactly right.
Can we talk about something real quick though?
What's up?
Staying on topic of The Last Dance, but then like getting off a little bit just to talk about something else for the people. Can we talk about how Adidas has pretty much fumbled,
blown everything?
The last three great players in basketball, starting with Michael Jordan. They had Kobe and then messed that up, and then could have had LeBron. Like LeBron's on record and talked about it. He wanted to sign with Adidas. Adidas was there and messed that up. And then I tweeted it out for the people who follow me on Twitter. How you gonna have but give boatloads of money to? I mean, at the time, Derrick Rose was a guy. I think the injury, you can't help that. And John Wall. I mean, they're making up for it now. They got James Harden, and James Harden, is doing this thing and stuff like that. But like, ain't nobody touching it.
No, nobody really checked.
I gotta get the heart.
But exactly what Steve said. The athletes that they did have, Kobe's, those space boots. T-Mac. Don't forget about T-Mac shoe. Don't forget about T-Mac.
Hey, yeah.
Those
Crazy Ace was the best ones. Like, those were legit.
Let's not forget that T-Mac had a shoe for them as well.
Those T-Macs was pretty fresh too, though.
Yeah,
they were good to ball in. It's not something you can wear.
They were good to ball in, not to wear out.
But still, like, how do you fuck up all of those things? I mean, and shouts out, Jordan's mom is the real GOAT, because she was the one, like, Jordan fans, Nike, to be honest, Nike should cut her a check every month.
They probably are. Shit.
Thank you for making him get on that plane and take the visit.
Yes.
Yeah, but still, like, if you're an Adidas executive, like, do you want to jump out of a window?
Well, if you was
drop the ball.
If you was an exec back then, you don't work there anymore.
Right.
100% can't work there. If somebody's still working there, then Adidas deserves everything they get.
Whoever had that conversation with Jordan to say, at this time it's like you didn't even give it a try. You couldn't even come up with a pitch for the man. That's just terrible.
And he wanted to sign. That's what's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll give him a pass on the LeBron thing. It just came down to Nike just had way more money than Adidas. Nike called, how much they willing to offer? Oh, okay, we can give you this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nike just always been willing to risk a little bit more, especially money, to throw at these guys, man. Like, they know, like, Nike just any other company could throw out, Nike can just top it easily and just scoop them athletes up. So I think they're missing out on the star athlete. I think they're probably doing all right with like team sports. I think Adidas do sponsor a lot of teams, but they ain't got that signature shoe or standard. I mean, they doing kind of good with the Yeezys, but they don't have no basketball star though.
No, but they make a lot of money with soccer right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And with the basketball shoes they put out, nobody wants to wear them outside of if you want to try them out the hoop in. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not wearing no James Harden out. I'm not doing that.
Right. Yeah. I don't even know what they look like, to keep it a buck, man.
No, I'm not.
Right. Y'all know I work at URI for our athletics department. We're in Adidas school, and
my bad.
Man, I'll keep it, like no, like at first I was like when I first started, I was like, oh dang, I had no Adidas when I started working there. Like everything I had was Nikes, and so it really like put me in a place where I gotta start buying Adidas. And I'm not gonna lie, Ultra Boosts are crazy comfortable. Yeezy,
Yeah.
Yeezy
That's the crazy thing about
crazy
it. They
comfortable.
probably the most comfortable and best quality shoes. They just don't get no street cred.
They look comfortable. I will say that.
Yeah, like I'm extremely happy with everything I have Adidas, like down from the clothes, down shoes, everything that I have that I wear for work purposes and stuff like that. And I mean, Kanye West is keeping them afloat. And like the players, when I talk to the players, they love hooping in the shoes that we get. When we get the Hardens, you know, we're getting Donovan Mitchell about to have some shoes that's dropping pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Okay.
about that.
Got Donovan Mitchell. Okay.
Yeah.
Got a nice little roster building.
Yeah, Dame got some good shoes and stuff there. You know, the players wearing. The players are like, yo, the shoes are like comfortable and they're great to play ball in. But like, I'm not gonna lie, like it's like before we go on a road trip, it's like, yo, please, like players be like having J's on, like, yo, we can't wear J's, like, like
I know as soon as they leave the locker room, they throwing J's on.
oh,
I remember that.
Yeah, you know that.
as soon as the game over, and they come in the locker room like J's, and it's like, but like what's kept kept them in Adidas is Yeezys. They will like the players, you know, will purchase, you know, get their own Yeezys and stuff like that, and they will wear that on their own, or like when we travel, stuff like that, because you know it's a very fashionable shoe that people like. Like I'm not gonna lie, I got like 8 pair. I'm sad to say it. Like
I don't blame you.
I'm a hype beast. I bought completely in.
But just getting back on target, let's talk about the '92 Olympics in Barcelona.
Why they
Tony
bully
Kukoc.
Tony, man?
The introduction of Tony Kukoc.
Why they bully Tony, man?
Jerry Krause.
Jerry Krause. We already know just how disrespectful that man was to a championship team. You know, you already have that built. It's understandable to go out and want to recruit more talent to be on that team, but you don't go around boasting when you have the great Michael Jordan on your team. Scottie Pippen, the best sidekick in the world. You don't.
You can say the great Scottie Pippen too.
Somebody who's unknown, the great Scottie. I'll give him his due. The great Scottie Pippen, and you go out to a complete unknown, and you talk and boast about he's the future of the Bulls, and totally neglect one of your superstars' opportunity to re-sign for more money. So that was his opportunity, and you know how competitive Jordan and Pippen are. If this man is the future, you got to prove it.
I think he proved that he would be a valuable asset the second game. First game he was scared. I think they shocked him. He wasn't expecting to play against just those 2 players the whole game. He definitely wasn't expecting to get shut down.
But everybody bullied him that game. Then Barkley knocked him over.
Yeah.
You're like, these brothers came to play.
So I think he had to go back, check himself out, and realize, you know, I can hoop with them. I just got to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to be fair, I think like I've watched a documentary on the Dream Team, and a lot of the players from other countries were like starstruck to see those guys. They were like, "Oh, like we really about to play against like."
When they saw John Stockton, man,
get beat down by 30 plus, and take pictures with Michael Jordan after the game and all.
Yeah.
Like I think they were like starstruck, and Tony said it like I didn't know the little guys had a problem with me. I'm like, oh God, like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. And next thing you know, tip-off happens. And then, you know, they playing lockdown defense. Like, yo, like anytime we touch the ball, like, and they just like killed him. I think that like took him out of his element, took him out of his game. And like, but I think, you know, goes back to the Jerry Krause thing. You know, they couldn't play Jerry on the court. So, you know, okay, we're going to take out Jerry's boy when we get a chance. Did the same thing with
Dan Marley.
Stan Marley with the Suns. Like anybody that had any connections with Jerry Krause, they just You know,
They proved their point every time, every chance they got.
And I'm gonna take the blame, you know, because we all know Mike uses things to motivate him, and I think, you know, it's one of those things Mike used to motivate himself, and they brought home the goal. That's all that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everybody else. You know, that's just kind of Jerry's doing. They didn't really have any way to get back at him, so they took that as the only way they could, you know, kind of show him up. You know, he was so obsessed with Tony. You know, they say he, you know, was recruiting him real heavy. You know, basically showing him a lot of love. And he got these two superstars, and you're not even taking care of them, and you overseas, you know, recruiting a foreign player. So of course they're gonna try to, you know, show him up when they can. And I think Tony, he was kind of blindsided because I think in those first couple round games they play to win, but they don't play with that much intensity as they, you know, show him in that first game. So he was kind of blindsided by that. He thinking like, well, okay, you know, maybe we're not expected to win, but I don't expect them to lock me up like this, you know. So that's just kind of Jerry's doing, and they just use that as an opportunity just to, you know, get a little revenge back at him. That's all that was in my eyes.
I think we should move on now to a comment that really stuck out to me. Republicans buy sneakers too. Republicans buy sneakers too. How we feel about that?
I mean, I think I'm gonna go against the grain on this one. But
Go ahead.
The comment, you know, he said he was on the bus with people and stuff like that. At that, I think him saying that, I mean, he owned it, was more of him being business Mike. And one thing that I will say that I appreciate about Mike is Mike says it all the time. He doesn't want to get involved with politics and stuff like that. And he's very adamant about that. And it goes back into my belief, like if a superstar or an athlete wants to get involved and display their political views, like I respect and I appreciate LeBron James for everything he does in that aspect. But I'm not going to down Mike for his beliefs and not wanting to get involved. Do I think the Republicans buy sneakers thing, could that comment have not really have been said? He didn't really necessarily have to go there. He could have, I mean, but it's Mike. Like when Mike says whatever hell Mike want to say. If it was me personally, like I have my moments where certain things that I would get involved with that I won't get involved with. And when you're in that moment, if you're in that microscope, Mike was the only player really under a microscope and stuff like that. And he was young at the time. Like, you know, this wasn't older Mike. Even older Mike still necessarily doesn't get involved. But he even said, like, you know, he talked to his mom, like, I don't know enough about the topic to get involved with it, which I think made him smart enough to say, okay, before I dive deep into this, I don't want to say nothing and then get backed in a corner knowing that the media is going to be down his throat and they ask me a question and I answer it wrong, or I don't know how to articulate it well. So I'm just not going to say anything at all. But I understand these things are money driven. He needs money to run his campaign. Understanding, you know, he's from North Carolina. He knew dude was a racist. So he's just like, yo, he needs a check. I'll write him a check. And he's continuously done that. You know, he's supported the Obamas, you know, helped pay for the wing in the African American History Museum, which I have to go. I don't know. Have any of y'all gone yet? I don't want to get too much.
I haven't been yet, no.
I haven't been.
3 times.
I want to make
Mostly for work.
Okay. But yeah, I gotta make my way down there. But yeah, like he's shown that he's willing to do things financially and fiscally. He's just not the type of person to talk about it. So to me, I didn't have an issue with the comment.
Yeah. I'll touch on it next. I guess in hindsight, you know, at the time I was probably too young to even pay attention to a comment like that, especially something political as that. But looking at it now and knowing everything that I know, I guess I don't have too big of an issue with it. I'm kind of like with George. If he wasn't that educated and had enough information to really speak out on it, I can't really fault him for that. And he never really strived to be anything more than a ball player. Like, he said in his own words, he just wanted to be a basketball player. It's unfortunate that he did not speak out more. I wish he would have been a little bit more vocal for social issues and everything like that. But at the same time, I can't fault him because of his own reasoning. Yeah, I mean, he could have said something, but he could have misspoke and then, caused some harm to the man's campaign. Or he just could have sounded ignorant, like George said. If you don't have enough information and you out there speaking publicly about something you don't know about, he could have got caught up in something where he didn't agree with, what was going on with Harvey Gantt, and could have backed him, and he didn't know what he was talking about. So I mean, it's kind of like, I agree with him, but I wish he would have said more. But at the same time, I can't really fault him because he never said he wanted to be involved with politics or even really say he wanted to be a role model. But at the same time, he did contribute financially to these things. So, I mean, you got to give him some credit for that. He's just not as vocal as some people are, but he still does things and he tried to, do what he can. But like he said, he's not a politician and that's not his expertise. So I can't really fault him for not coming out and publicly endorsing him, although he did, monetarily contribute to the campaign. So I mean, what can you do?
Right. Aaron, you want to take this? Where are we going with this?
I'll go last.
Oh, you setting up for the uppercut, huh? You ain't gonna catch me slipping. All right. This is an interesting topic, and again, we had this kind of conversation a couple of days ago, and me and Aaron we're adding fuel to the fire with it, and so we were setting up for this debate. I did a little more research on it before I decided to get on this. So for me, again, I feel it was wise of him to not get involved, especially, again, like everybody said, if you're not familiar with the topic or you don't want to seem ignorant to your political background or whatever the situation is. I feel in that situation it's always best to keep silent. Where he messed up, obviously, was saying Republicans buy Jordans too, because it even if you haven't chosen a side, especially to Black people, it views that, okay, you're siding with them. And so that's definitely one point I feel that he was wrong. Another situation is what Steve brought to the table, indicating not wanting to be a role model. I have no problem with athletes, not wanting to be a role model. Really, a lot of them come from poverty backgrounds, and they're just happy and blessed to be where they are. So I respect the athletes that would rather be the real model versus the role model, because as much as we would like to be perfect, we know for a fact we're not perfect, and we're going to make mistakes, and there's going to be a blemish on our name at some point. But we have to let people know, especially the youth, that that's okay. You're going to make mistakes in life. And really what happens is when you start to gain knowledge or you get older about something, you tend to look back and regret things that you did in the past. But you learn from it. So that's the aspect there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and toss that to Aaron and see where he takes this.
Let's take a quick break, everybody. And
go ahead, send that request.
Yeah, go ahead and send a request out. So let's do that right quick.
Okay.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're gonna jump right back into the same topic. Aaron, go ahead and say your piece on the Republicans wear sneakers too.
I think as usual, I have a different viewpoint on it. I feel like, man, we talked about Isaiah Thomas is on a world tour. I feel like Jordan is on a little tour of himself as well. I think he's trying to scale it back, man, by saying he didn't have that much information, so he didn't want to say anything. I feel like he could have found the information if he wanted. and also by saying he didn't set out to be a role model. Like Mike, I want to be like Mike. That's a whole commercial. You are the role model. It don't matter if you want it to be, you are the role model. Everybody wants to be like Mike. So I feel like by him saying I didn't want to be a role model, that's not what I wanted to do. Like, yeah, you did, bro. You wanted to sell them shoes. You wanted to sell them shoes by any means necessary, which I don't fault him for. And I can't just say I want you to be honest about it, because then he might lose some people trying to buy shoes for real. So I feel like he tried to scale it back a little bit, walk it back, and try to make it not sound as bad as it did back then.
But let me just interject real quick. But to your point, do you think him wanting to be a businessman equals him wanting to be a role model? Him wanting to sell shoes, I mean, of course, yeah, he wanted the money, but do you think that necessarily him coming up with that slogan and him like saying, yeah, I got to live my life this way and I need to walk on the straight and, straight and narrow everything that I do? I don't think that he wanted to do that, but as a result of him being in that spotlight, he had to kind of move a certain way. But you feel that that's what he really wanted to do, or he just was kind of obligated to do that because of his contract with Nike?
I definitely feel like he wanted to live his life in his own way, but I feel like it goes hand in hand, especially even if you look at today's superstars. And I'm not even just talking about Bron. Any superstar, NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever. If you want it, once you reach that level of success, and your brand kind of goes hand in hand with what you're doing on the playing field, you become a role model, whether you want to or not. A lot of athletes even come out and say it. I think I've heard Charles Barkley even say it. I'm not a role model. But Charles, you on TV every day. Just because you say what you want to say don't mean you are a role model. You just happen to be an honest one. So I feel like Jordan definitely wanted to live his life the way he wanted to live his life, but he still was a role model. He still is the role model all these years later. I just feel like he missed an opportunity to, which he didn't have to speak up and kind of take a stance. I mean, he didn't have all the information, but he knew for a fact one person running was racist. The other person might have some stuff going on, but one person was definitely racist. And I mean, he did give money, but to him that was, I feel like that was a drop in the bucket. I could be wrong.
One thing I will say is it's easy for us to say what Michael could have and should have done, and not just saying that this was in late 80s, early 90s, and when this was going on. And it's 2020, and Black men in America still have a lot of the same issues, and we're looked at, Black athlete is looked at and expected to do things in a certain way, in a certain manner, in order to stay on top and sustain that success. And I think in this day and age, it makes it easier for LeBron to be who he is. But look at what our brother Colin Kaepernick just went through, standing up for what he stood up for. In this century, he lost everything, and I commend him for it. Brother put everything on the line and lost everything. And Mike was just looking at Muhammad Ali Muhammad Ali is remembered. He fought back through it. But like I said, if Mike is honest to what he was saying, if he just cared about playing basketball, and if he has that tunnel vision, we hear some artists all the time talking about they're focused on their craft and their things, and sometimes they genuinely don't know what's going on in the outside world. I'm a Kanye fan, and I know Aaron jokes about me all the time. He's called me Kanye before, but Kanye, a part of his genius is part of it. We say all the time, well, Kanye is going crazy, but I think to put out the genius level of what he does, you do have to put yourself in a mind frame that the average human can't go into. And I think in order to be that level of great, you sometimes have to do some of those things. And some people can't do both. Luckily, we have some athletes that can do both, and we have some people that can't do both. And if Michael is one of those people that If he say he couldn't do both and he can only focus on one thing, I'm not gonna fight with him to say whether he should or should not have done stuff. But I will agree with you. Like it's tough. Like whether the one person is black. I don't know what Harvey Gantt had going on, but
No, we don't. I'll be fair. We don't know what he had
I
going
said,
on.
but it is very well documented that the one person was a racist. I mean, it's 2020, and
Helms.
and we're still going through racial issues right now in America that we feel that we shouldn't. And like, to me, like when I talk to my parents and my grandparents, they're like, okay, is it bad? But it's still not nothing that they went through. So it's kind of like, if we think this era is bad, it's no telling like what the actual issues and the pressure of what it was back when Mike was going through some of this stuff. So it's kind of just like, for him to say, yeah, Republicans buy sneakers too. And I think one person, I mean, Steph Curry is a testament. Steph Curry is white America's favorite black athlete for the longest.
He can do no wrong.
He can do no wrong. And he hates President Trump.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get along at all. But it really hasn't affected his brand whatsoever. And I think it's easier now for athletes to be more vocal again. And like, I think part of that is they try to ignore what Steph's saying. They just blame it on LeBron because they already hate LeBron. And it'll be a topic for another, I think, a great discussion on this podcast one day. It's a sad thing with black people in America, light skin and dark skin. We'll get on that later on. But I think that has a lot to do with it too. Which I don't want people to think that Steph Curry is half breed. His daddy just light skinned, mama just light skinned. Steph Curry's black. but and I think that has a lot to do with the timing of everything. Like, it's easier for us to say it now. Like, as an athlete, you can be vocal against, you can be political, you can do whatever, all that stuff, and it won't effectively kill your career.
Mm-hmm. And especially in the NBA,
depending on the sport you play. In football, totally different animal.
especially the NBA today, they pretty much support their athletes whenever they have certain views on things. They allow them to express themselves without really any consequence. Mm-hmm. So initially, when this topic was brought up, me and Aaron go back and forth. Michael Jordan. It goes back to the GOAT debate. Which GOAT would handle the situation a little different.
I like how you said that. Which GOAT would handle the situation? I like how you said that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. But just today's NBA versus early, like late 80s, early 90s. I want to say Jordan had a lot more to lose than, let's say, LeBron, Chris Paul, and Carmelo Anthony when they took that stand for what's going on today. And because of that, again, at that point in Jordan's career, he wasn't making multi-million dollars. He wasn't a multi-million-dollar athlete at the time. So all he really had was his endorsements. So that's not something he wanted to upset versus at this point in LeBron's career, upwards to almost $100 million he's probably worth at the time. So, if he did take a sacrifice there, if his popularity took a sacrifice there, he still has his money and he can still live his life. He still has generation-changing money. At that point, Jordan wasn't at that level yet. And that's how I felt about it. But going back to what, especially the culture of one politician was an African-American, the other was a racist white man. And with that being said, Aaron, I agree. He had that opportunity to kind of take a stand, but I can't fault him for not doing it.
I don't fault him for not doing it. I think he missed an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I think it just goes back to I don't feel like they had more to lose back then. I think if anything now, there's so many more eyes on you as an athlete now. Now is when you have a lot more to lose. I don't think the amount of money, because Jordan, he wasn't broke. He isn't what he is now, but I don't think he definitely wasn't broke.
But he didn't have LeBron James money neither.
I don't know. A lot of people don't have LeBron James money. My businessman to get that. But I think, man, now it's it's. I mean, it could be an even playing field. Taking a stand now, I don't feel like it's any less of a chance than it was back then. Because with social media and so many other things, there's so many eyes on you at all times that you got to make the right decisions now too.
Yeah, but you got to look at it like now, like even Nike's gotten political as a company, and we don't know where Nike stood in that time. Like now, like now we know. Like anytime they do something, they're supporting it. And Nike's one of the most controversial companies. Like it was boycotting Nike. I remember like a year or two ago, people talking about boycotting Nikes and burning Nikes and burning. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm not. How much I pay for these Nikes? I ain't burning.
I think Nike's a good example, but I think a lot of companies now are more open to those things because athletes put themselves out there to change the narrative. Yeah. Back then, companies couldn't do that, or they would lose everybody, all the supporters. But now, if an athlete takes a stand and puts themselves out there, I think it kind of helps the company to kind of move along. Yep. And join too.
Yeah. I just want to touch on that real quick. I think now, especially, is a time where athletes they can lose a lot of endorsements and things. It just depends on the actual topic they choose to support. Because if you take a look at somebody like Colin Kaepernick, that topic he chose to support, was basically around social injustice. And racism, within the police force, but how he did it, taking a knee on the, the national anthem, that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And if you look at it, if you try to compare the situation to somebody like LeBron, let's just say if he would have took that stance, I don't think if he would have kneeled at NBA games, would people rebel against him the same? It's quite possible, but he has so much money tied up in him. And it's a lot of corporate dollars backing him. He could survive something like that. So I think it's a time where it is kind of trendy for athletes to speak out more. It just depends on the topic. If you are supporting the right topic and the timing is right, you can get a lot of support from that. Or at the same time, it could backfire on you and you lose a lot of support and lose a lot of corporate dollars. So I think we give a lot of these athletes now a lot of praise for supporting, causes and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think sometimes we give them too much credit because some of these things are kind of trendy and it kind of works out for them in their favor. So I'm kind of on the fence about that. Especially back then when you compare something like Muhammad Ali and Jackie Robinson, they pretty much put their careers and lives on the line versus, a couple dollars, so it's kind of a topic that, we could definitely go a little bit more in depth into, but I just think it's one of those things where if the timing is right and the subject is right, you can survive a controversial, stance against something, socially.
Yeah. Well said, Steve. For the object of time, we probably should move on to episode 6 here. The Jordan rules. How we feel about that topic?
I mean, I think teams have always had rules to stop certain players. I think it just goes on. He was Michael Jordan, so the Jordan rules. I mean, the Jordan rules plays a big role into what we talked about for Loyal Sons podcast episode 1. The whole Isaiah thing. The Jordan rules played a factor into the whole Detroit Pistons bad boy image. I mean, I don't necessarily think. I mean, they had Jordan rules, but they played that way against everybody, and they were just trying to win. I mean, and the NBA allowed it, and wouldn't be allowed today. I don't have any necessarily issues with it. I mean, because if you didn't play that way against Mike, and it was within the rules at that time, Mike would have torched them, and they would have lost. And their objective is to win. They're not there to kiss the ring to to Michael Jordan. They were there to win their own thing. But don't be upset when you're labeled the bad boys, which, they fully bought in, they wore shirts and everything. Don't be upset with the criticism that comes with it and that stuck with you, that's on your legacy. I mean, like, only person that seemed like the owners, Bill Laimbeer and Dennis Rodman, like, they were just like, hey, that's who we were and what we did. And I feel like everybody else wants to walk it back a little bit because, it's been ridiculed and it's not necessarily tarnished, but it's like have people looking at their legacy a little sideways. But I don't have no issues with the Jordan rules. I mean, you had to stop him some way or another. And you had to push him down, knock his ass down.
I feel at this point, it was definitely the opportunity to kind of, start nitpicking at somebody that America viewed as their darling and things like that. With the tell about behind the scenes of what went on in the locker room and things of that nature.
A bad teammate? No.
Could have been a bad teammate. It brought up the aggression with teammates, management, owners, Jordan fighting people and teammates and different things like that. I like how the rest of the team kind of picked up on it and they kind of had his back with that. And if you look at it, it kind of fueled that 93 season. It gave them the fuel to say, you know what, it's us against the world. And we're getting this three-peat. We're going to separate ourselves from great teams of the past, the Celtics, the Lakers, and we're going to get this three-peat.
Are we talking about the book, the Jordan rules?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the Jordan rules the Detroit Pistons had. They had a playbook and they followed the Jordan rules.
For the record, everybody, yes, there's two different sets of Jordan rues out there.
Yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well, I can circle back and we can talk about the book later. Go down, ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with Denzel. It's just it gave kind of a little bit more real look into Jordan. Just so, he wasn't so perfect. Just to kind of give him another light. He just always, like he said in the thing, he was always in the McDonald's commercials and shoe commercials and all that type of stuff. So it just gave people a different side of him. I don't think he was so afraid of that. I just think maybe some of the things that came out, like him, getting into fights and stuff like that, he might have had a little bit issue with that because I don't think he wanted to be seen in that light, But this is NBA is it's a physical, especially back then, it was a physical sport. I mean, tempos run high. If you're trying to compete at the highest level and win something at the highest level, and it's a very small margin of error, when them athletes competing at that level. So, I mean, for stuff to happen, you can't really say you're surprised. I mean, because even now, I mean, practices are probably still one of the most private things in the NBA. You don't really hear too much about what goes on in the practices. So, just to kind of get that information out, even now, you probably still be surprised at what goes on in some of the practices. You see how, that whole Jimmy Butler thing was a huge deal when he went off in practice. So just to hear some of those things, it's just kind of unique to hear that. And then just see Jordan in a different light. It just makes him a more human being, really. I mean, we all got our flaws, so I don't think it's nothing wrong with him being a little bit exposed. It just, nobody's perfect, so it just kind of showed that. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I love the book. I think it gave insight. Now that just fuels. He's known as being an intense person, a huge competitor, and that the book just fuels it. The same way we think about when there's a lot of stories out there about how Kobe goes at teammates in practice. It's the same thing. He's not a perfect guy. He just wants to win, and he would go to great lengths to win. So if him going at teammates in practices is a bad thing, then he's not the player you should root for. I don't think the book was a bad thing at all. I think it just gave insight to who he was as a person. Now, he did have a gambling problem.
Before we get to the gambling, let's give George the opportunity to present his depiction.
On the book, I think it just humanized him. It just made him human. It just showed everybody, that and I think we get so caught up in the mystique and the aura of athletes and even artists and musicians and stuff like that we forget that they're human beings just like everybody else. And I think the book just helps everybody remember that he's not a perfect person, and he, does certain things. It does, start to put, for me as a Kobe fan, put a lot of pieces together. Like when Kobe was struggling with the Lakers, after Shaq first left and he was fighting with his teammates, I'm pretty sure those text messages between him and Mike were just like, yo, you won't believe what he said in practice. And Mike probably said, yo, if you go back into practice the next day, knock his ass. Well, that's how them conversations went. Like, next day, you know what I told you to do? Good boy. Good boy. But yeah, it just made him human. I agree with pretty much everything everybody said.
Okay.
Shed a light on it. We can talk about the game thing.
How we feel about John Paxson clinching the series?
Same way Same way you feel about Ray Allen clinching that championship for the Heat. So let's talk about
he got him to game 7. He got him to game 7.
And I don't even know why we talking about him clinching the series. He did his job. He was wide open.
He wide open.
He hit his shot.
He was the first player other than Jordan to score in that fourth quarter. Let's keep that in mind.
It ain't like they scored a whole bunch of points in the quarter anyway.
It doesn't matter, but still, Jordan got them to that point, and John Paxson did his job. I mean, for you to say he clinched the series, I don't feel that he clinched it. He did his job. He hit the shot. Jordan clinched it by getting them, there. He had to get him into that opportunity to even hit that shot. So
I'm glad you said that. Because there's another great player that got his team to the point of a championship, and somebody else hit the shot.
Well, we can say Ray Allen, as long as you're good with us saying Ray Allen clinched the series.
And we can definitely say Robert Horry.
It would have been closer if you said Kyrie, because that shot actually won the series, same way Paxson did.
Well, you know what? You're right. We take that back. Yes, LeBron didn't take the last shot there. It definitely was Kyrie.
Hey man. So, ain't nobody want to talk about LeBron and all his shit.
Yeah, no one's going to talk about LeBron. If we're going to bring that up, let's talk about how great a finals that was.
So
we had Jordan.
We got to say that. Oh, you're talking about Jordan. Gotcha.
Yeah. You had Jordan feeling a certain way about playing Charles Barkley because Charles Barkley was the MVP that season. 25 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He had a great year with Jordan feeling a certain way. And that gives you the point of, though Jordan is great and different players of the time, and we could say LeBron has been great over some years, but there were players that had better seasons than those individuals. Mm-hmm. But that team, and we said this earlier, I think it was another opportunity for the Bulls to say, the hell with the management again. He's talking about Dan Marley being one of the best defenders in the NBA, and of course Jordan gave him the business. Also, the fact that it was that close to going to a Game 7.
Until Paxson bailed him out.
And like Steve said, Paxson did his job.
He did his job.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it too much because I want us to hit the gambling piece real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to say this. I thought it was an amazing series and it helped. And I think what we talked about in the beginning of this documentary, helping the current generation see how great Michael Jordan actually was as a player, other than just what they saw, other than what they know of just buying sneakers. I think it also helped them realize how good of a player Charles Barkley actually was. I think these generations just know fat ass Charles that just sits and talks trash, which I love. I love watching best shit ever. But I think it helped show them that, okay, yeah, Draymond Green does need to shut the fuck up when he tries to compare himself to Charles Barkley.
Let's cut it out.
And I'm not knocking anything from Draymond. I think Draymond
got 3 of them things.
I respect that.
Draymond, but he is not. He has never led any one of those teams to the finals.
I don't think that Golden State would have gotten any one of those championships. I think Draymond getting suspended is the only reason why Cleveland won the series they won. But we'll talk about that another day. If Draymond never got suspended, he would have won. But yeah, not saying Draymond isn't great, but Draymond, come on. You are not in the same category of you can't even hold. I'm like one of them old high school coaches. You can't even hold this jock strap. Like, you're not on the same level as Charles Barkley. Come on, Draymond. Like,
Mr. Triple Single out here. Get out of here.
Like, I understand, like, you went to, like, Charles went to the Olympics on the Dream Team. You went to the Olympics because a lot of people started saying no.
Yeah.
Right.
They were just like, well, I guess we'll take Draymond.
We have no other choice. But yeah, so definitely we're gonna get into this gambling addiction versus being a competitive addiction. Mr. Duncan, go ahead, start this off, Mr. Duncan. What you got for us?
But really, what this tells you is he didn't take the Knicks seriously. I want to start out there. That's my first. He was down 0-2 to the Knicks and said, "You know what? We are down, but we gonna win it anyway. I don't want to get this money." That's really what I took from it.
I want to take this opportunity to blame the media for messing up any kind of power that we had in that series. They took it all away when they started bashing Jordan about gambling. Now that was fuel for them to say, you know what, let's just finish the series. And unfortunately, we didn't win another game. But I want to say thank you, media. This is the media's fault. All the media's fault.
And you said Patrick Ewing deserves a what?
I don't know what you're talking about. I clearly must have been inebriated in that.
To give y'all some insight, Denzel got on the chat today and told us that Patrick Ewing deserves a statue outside of Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, he deserves a bobblehead night. All the little kids can come for Patrick Ewing bobblehead night and wear little knee pads and elbow pads and get little boxes.
I feel every team
half off popcorn.
Every team that has had a great player deserves a statue in front of their arena. And regardless of what happened, he's never won a ring. He's been to 2 finals. He actually led the team to 2 finals. So at the same time, they just played in a different era. Again, you went up against Jordan. You went up against players of that caliber that unfortunately took you out of the opportunity to win. Not only Jordan, but Hakeem Olajuwon. So with that being said,
he lost it in the finals.
Yeah, in 7 games. And it was a hell of a series. So it wasn't like they went there and got blown out. You know, if John Starks, didn't have the kind of game that he had, they would have won Game 6. And there wouldn't have been a Game 7. But that's hindsight. I'm just looking back. We're not gonna get into that too much or whatever. But at the same time,
you sound like you hurt.
I don't have an issue. I don't have.
Yeah, we can't go
We
back.
can't. We can't. We don't have a hot tub time machine. We can't go back and change the past.
But to go back to the game, I don't have an issue with Mike. Mike liked to drink cognac, Miller Lite, smoke cigars, and gamble. Sounds a lot like myself. I don't have an issue with those things, so it doesn't bother me. So if that's how Mike needed to unwind, hey, by all means.
Yeah, and again, it's not like he had a problem, more or less.
Didn't he testify?
I mean, he testified because he had to. He was called to testify. He willingly in that position.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm gonna go against the grain here, and I think I'm gonna say Mike did have a slight problem. He had a slight problem. I mean, granted, he did have the money. And he wasn't doing anything illegal. But for him to put himself in those situations, when you that high profile of an athlete, I mean, we talking about Michael Jordan. We talking about one of the most, high profile, top 10 profile people in the world at the time. And you talking about you gambling against somebody from, out of the country, out of North Carolina that you don't really know. I mean, that says like you might have an issue, bro. Like you didn't even get to screen these people. You just like, oh, you got money. Come on, like I mean,
come hit this golf club real quick.
Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, it sounds funny, but when you think about it, like they could have, it could have led to some stuff. Like they talking about Mike, oh man, $1 million. I mean, it's not a lot to him, but when you think about $1 million, like gambling on a golf course, that's a lot of money, man. So I think he had a slight problem. I don't think it was nothing really that the media should have blown up like that. But I think he had, some competitive issues as far as being too competitive. If he took it to that extreme.
Mike was gambling with the security guard in his back office in the locker room.
Him and Bob
for marketing.
like Mike didn't care. Mike like, dude, Mike, you make like in like 10 minutes what this dude probably makes all year long, and you betting this man. Like,
I mean, and you see, like he said, like I'm gonna give you 4 chances to match my one. I mean, like who does that? Like
exactly.
Somebody got a problem who does that. Like you don't give nobody that much of an advantage just to keep going there or have them keep betting against you. I understand that one.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a competitive problem there. Just wanting to beat everybody and be the best at everything. But like you said, I agree with everything you said, Steve. And there was kind of a problem there. But it's not something. It wasn't illegal. It was something that gave the media fuel to kind of tarnish his image, and that's what he was guilty of. Not taking advantage of, not taking into account that, again, people do look up to you. And when things like this come out about your personal life, you're going to take a hit.
Yeah.
And I will say, the man he was gambling with has one of the top 10 names I've ever heard in life. Slim Brother.
Slim Brother.
That's amazing.
That's a good.
I almost said my Instagram name. Slim.
All right, well, we're coming up on our last 5 or so minutes here. We want to bring it to a close here pretty soon. So you think we covered all of our topics for this episode? Anything anybody want to talk about before we head out?
No, I before we throw it to Steve for the quote, I just want to say I can't wait for Patrick Ewing Bobblehead Night. I'm definitely gonna tune in for that one.
Yeah, Patrick definitely deserves, the ball. I just hope they do the Patrick with like the really high fade. I just hope they do that, dog. I think, that'll definitely look good with just bobbling just like that. And I'm only like a couple hours away from the city, so I might try to catch that game because Knicks tickets is real cheap right now.
I will get one.
Knicks tickets are real cheap.
All right. Y'all got me. All right, y'all got me. That's one. Oh, y'all. It's a 7-game series, though. I'm not backing out.
Where's Steve?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up with a little simple quote. I feel this is kind of fitting for just the culture of today's world. And it's you can't have people listen to you unless you come to their world and then bring them to yours. That was by K-Dot, aka Kendrick Lamar. I just feel that that's just kind of fitting with the society we live in today. I mean, it's a lot of differences of opinions. And then, people get offended when you have a different viewpoint of any situation. So it's just like, in order for you to understand people, you got to come down to their level or meet them where they at, and then kind of bring them on to your side to have them understand your viewpoint. So I guess that's just kind of fitting just of whatever's going on in today's world. And, you're having issues with people and just arguments about anything, whatever it is. So, just try to get a viewpoint of where someone's coming from, and then, just try to get them to understand your viewpoint as well. For all our listeners out there, if you still with us, just go ahead and hit, like the channel, subscribe. We appreciate your support. And we still a work in progress, so just continue to support us. Anybody else want to add some closing words?
That's it, man. Like you said, man, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get the notifications, man. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we're definitely grateful for that. Definitely.
100% grateful. Everybody that tuned in to episode 1. We hope that you like episode 2. We should be hopefully in the next few weeks here on Apple iTunes as well as Spotify for those who just want to listen. we got your feedback. You know, we all listening. A lot of people said that, you know, just tough to watch the stuff on YouTube because I believe you just got to keep the app open. You just can't close the app on your phone. So we're listening, you know, we're taking advice. But to keep giving that feedback and stuff like that is very much appreciated as we try to fine tune this thing and keep this thing growing.
All
All
right.
right.
All right.
All right.
Be
All right.
easy.
Y'all be easy.
All right, y'all be
All
good.
right. All right. Later, y'all.